Good morning. Hope you all are doing wonderful this morning. Um, I'm doing great. I woke up sober and happy and plugged my headphones, so probably can't hear me. There, now should be able to hear me. So I was doing laundry. This has nothing to do with AA, but uh, in a way it kind of does. But so I was doing laundry and I posted it on my community tab. So I was gifted some business cards for my channel. It's upside down, dork. And they're wonderful. I love them because they can get wet. But I have a whole bunch of stickers that I had taken to work, and I forgot they were in my sweater pocket, and I washed them all. They're clean, but they don't stick. But anyways, today is October 14th, 2023. It's an AA meeting, and as you can tell, it has been quite the journey for me the past couple of days. Um, but I'm happy and sober, and that's what matters. So, um, no bullying, no harassment. Please do not be judging people in the chat. Just because they're here in the chat does not mean that they are a recovering alcoholic. They may be here just supporting my channel, or they may be here to help a loved one or a friend or a family member or a stranger. Because, like it says, you never know when you might say the right thing at the right time, and someone may need to hear that. So that is another reason why I do these. And I enjoy doing it because it's also helping me stay sober, helping other people to stay sober and get sober, and vice versa. So, we are currently in the big book. It takes a long time to read, especially when it's just me. But I like being able to share my story. When I first started AA, I did not like to share anything, but I've grown up some. Almost 9 years sober. A few more weeks. So I'm Sandra. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm gonna read the steps, and then we'll get into the story in the big book. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol, that our lives had become unmanageable. 2. Came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. 3. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood Him. 4. Made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5. Admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. Just a second, guys. 6. We're entirely ready to have God remove all these defective characters. 7. Humbly asked Him to remove our shortcomings. 8. Made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9. Made direct amends wherever possible. Make direct amends to such people wherever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. Tongue-tied today. 10. Continue to take personal inventory of ourselves, and when wrong, promptly admit it. 11. Sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God as we understood Him, praying only for the knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry that out. 12. Having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we try to carry this message to alcoholics and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And in the big book, if y'all are new, if you don't have a book, that's fine. I'm going to read it anyways. But always put in there what book we're reading, what page we're on, and the story. And the way you find that is go to the More button under the video and on the replay. If you do that, it will show you what page we are on and what story. So I am reading the big book, the 4th edition of Alcoholics Anonymous. I call it the big book. And you can get all these books from Amazon. I'm not affiliated or sponsored by them, but you can order them through there, or you can possibly get one from a meeting. There's ways to get books if you need them. So okay, so we are on. He sold himself short. Now I highlighted this part in the book. But he found there was a higher power that had more faith in him than he had in himself. Thus, AA was born in Chicago. I grew up in a small town outside Akron, Ohio, where the life was typical of any average small town. Sorry, gotta get a drink. Small town. I was very much interested in athletics, and because of this and parental influence, I didn't drink or smoke in either grade of high school. All of this changed when I went to college. I had to adapt to new associations and associates, and it seemed to be the smart thing to drink and smoke. I confined drinking to weekends and drank normally in college and for several years thereafter. After I left school, I went to work in Akron, living at home with my parents. Home life was again a restraining influence. When I drank, I hid it from my folks, out of respect for their feelings. This continued until I was 27. Then I started traveling with the United States, and Canada was my territory, and with so much freedom and with an unlimited expense account, I was soon drinking every night and kidding myself that it was all part of the job. I know now that 60% of the time I drank alone without benefit of customers. In 1930, I moved to Chicago shortly thereafter, aided by the Depression. I found that I had a great deal of spare time and that a little drink in the morning helped. By 1932, I was going on 2 or 3 day benders. That same year, my wife became fed up with my drinking and around the house and called my dad in Akron to come and pick me up. She asked him to do something about me because she couldn't. She was thoroughly disgusted. Just a minute. Get that off the bed. Get it off the bed now. Give it. He's gonna be over here chewing that bone and it's gonna drive me crazy. Okay. This was the beginning of 5 years of bouncing back and forth between my home in Chicago and Akron to sober up. It was a period of binges coming closer and closer together and being of longer duration. Once Dad came all the way to Florida to sober me up after a hotel manager called him and said that he wanted to see me alive. He'd better get there fast. My wife could not understand why I would sober up for Dad, but not for her. They went into a huddle and Dad explained that he simply took my pants, shoes, and money away so that I could get no liquor and had to sober up. One time my wife decided to try this too. After finding every bottle that I had hidden around the apartment, she took away my pants, my shoes, my money, and my keys, threw them under the bed in the back bedroom, and and slip knotted our door by 1 a.m. I was desperate. I found some wool stockings, some white flannel that had shrunk to my knees, and an old jacket. I jimmied the front door so that I could get back in and walked out. I was hit by an icy blast. It was February with snow and ice on the ground, and I had a 4 block walk to the nearest cab stand, but I made it. On my ride to the nearest bar, I told the driver on how misunderstood I was by my wife and what an unreasonable person she was. By the time we reached the bar, he was willing to buy me a quart with his own money. Then, when we got back to the apartment, he was willing to wait 2 or 3 days until I got health back to be paid off for the liquor and fare. I was a good salesman. My wife could not understand the next morning why I was drunker than the night before when she had taken my bottles. After a particularly bad Christmas and New Year's holiday, Dad picked me up again early in January 1937. I'd go through the usual sobering up routine. This consisted of walking the floor for 3 or 4 days and nights until I could take nourishment. This time he had a suggestion to offer. He waited until I was completely sober, and on the day before I was to head back to Chicago, he told me of a small group of men in Akron who apparently had the same problem that I had, but were doing something about it. He said they were sober, happy, and had their self respect back, as well as the respect of their neighbors. He mentioned 2 of them whom I had known through the years and suggested that I talk with them. But I had my health back, and besides, I reasoned, they were much worse than I would ever be. Why, even a year ago, I had seen Howard, an ex doctor, mooching a dime for a drink. I could not possibly be that bad. I would at least have asked for a quarter. So I told Dad that I would lick it on my own, that I would drink nothing for a month, and after that, only beer. Lay down. Several months later, Dad was back in Chicago to pick me up. But this time my attitude was extremely different. I could not wait to tell him that I wanted help, that if these men in Akron had anything, I wanted it and would do anything to get it. I was completely licked by alcohol. I can still remember very distinctly getting into Akron at 11 p.m. and route the same Howard out of bed to do something about me. He spent 2 hours with me that night telling me his story. He said he finally learned that drinking was a fatal illness made up of an allergy plus an obsession. And once the drinking had passed from habit to obsession, we were completely hopeless and could look forward only to spending the balance of our lives in mental institutions or to death. He laid great stress on the progression of his attitude toward life and people, and most of his attitude had been very similar to mine. I thought at times that he was telling my story. I had thought that I was completely different from other people, that I was beginning to become a little balmy, even to the point of withdrawing more and more from society and wanting to be alone with my bottle. Here was a man with essentially the same outlook on life, except that he had done something about it. He was happy, getting a kick out of life, and people are beginning to get his medical practice back again. As I look back on that first evening, I realized that I began to hope. Then, for the first time, I felt that if he could regain these things, perhaps it would be possible for me. The next afternoon and evening, two other men visited me, and each told me his story and the things that they were doing to try to recover from this tragic illness. They had that certain something that seemed to glow, a peace, a serenity combined with hope, with happiness. In the next 2 or 3 days, the balance of this handful of men contracted me or contacted me. Sorry, guys, I'm like really tongue tied today. Um, in the next 2 or 3 days, okay, they contacted you, encouraged me, and told me how they were trying to live this program of recovery and the fun they were having doing it. Then and then only, after a thorough incorporation by 8 or 9 individuals, was I allowed to attend my first meeting. This first meeting was held in the living room of a home and was led by Bill D., the first man that Bill W. and Dr. Bob had worked with successfully. The meeting consisted of perhaps 8 or 9 alcoholics and 7 or 8 wives. It was different from the meetings now held. The big 8 book had not been written, and there was no literature except various religious pamphlets. The program was carried on entirely by word of mouth. The meeting lasted an hour and closed with the Lord's Prayer. After it was closed, we all retired to the kitchen and had coffee and donuts and more discussion until the small hours of the morning. I was terribly impressed by this meeting and the quality of happiness these men displayed, despite their lack of mental means. In this small group during the Depression, there was no one who was not hard up. I stayed in Akron 2 or 3 weeks on my initial trip, trying to absorb as much of the program and philosophy as I could. I spent a great deal of time with Dr. Bob whenever he had the time to spare, and in the home of 2 or 3 other people trying to see how the family lived the program. Every evening we would meet at the home of one of the members and have coffee and donuts and spend a social evening. Um, I'm going to go and read all the way back to uh, this last paragraph. The day before I was due, I go back to Chicago. It was Dr. Bob's afternoon off. He had me to the office and we spent 3 or 4 hours formally going through the 6-step program as it was at that time. The six steps were complete deflation, dependence and guidance for a higher power, moral inventory, confession, restitution, continued work with other alcoholics. Dr. Bob led me through all these steps. At the moral inventory, he brought up several of my bad personality traits or character defects, such as selfishness, conceit, jealousy, carelessness, intolerance, ill temper, sarcasm, and resentment. We went over these at great length, and then he finally asked me if I wanted these defective characters removed. When I said yes, we both knelt at his desk and prayed, each of us asking to have these defects taken away. And that's where we will stop today. And I want to go back to the best thing that I get out of this book is that we can help each other, and that is something that we need to do. We are not the only ones with this issue. We are not the only family members that have family members with this issue, um, or friends. Um, but what we can do is we can like refer our friends and family members to a meeting to meet with people that are just like us, that we think that are not like us. Because when we're getting sober, we still believe that it's just us. And then you start going to a group, or you start a group. Um, it works. It does. It really does. And eventually you will have the aha moment, as we call it. Um, Because, yeah, we do get that aha moment. I did. I think my sister did. Because when I first started going to meetings, I was like, no, I'm not going to share my story with these people. They don't know me. I don't know them. Blah, blah, blah. I was playing all these things in my head, right? And then we started talking about our stories and how the book has pointed it out, or the step has pointed that out. We share the same things. Um, Not all of us get it, but a lot of us do. And like I said, it's no judgment. So if you relapse, you can come back. You come back from it. Don't stay out there forever. And I can vouch for that because I have gone out before and went back to drinking. But that was before I found AA and started going to AA and actually listening, because that's what I did for a while when I first started going, was I was listening, because I didn't have a voice at that point in time. I mean, have had a voice, but not to voice my alcoholism and stuff like that. Whereas now I do, and I'm more than happy to share it. Um, if I can help just one person, it is worth it. It is, and I'm so glad I started doing the meetings here, because not everyone can get to a meeting after all. There's some of us that are immobile, that are in homes that they can't uh, go roaming around and stuff like that because they're unable to. So doing them here so that way they can have this help too. And yeah, this is for everybody, no matter what. So this part got me also, besides the highlighted part. He laid great stress on the progression of his attitude towards life and people, and most of his attitudes had been very similar to mine. I thought at that time, on times, that he was telling my story. I had thought that I was completely different from other people, that I was beginning to become a little balmy, even to the point of withdrawing more and more from society and wanting to be alone with the bottle. I did that. I was alone with a bottle plenty of times, and I drugged my family through a lot of crap, a lot of crap. And then I found this wonderful place, the wonderful people of this big group. I mean, we have groups everywhere, everywhere. Even in different countries, we have AA meetings. Shoot, I could probably say that there's AA meetings on ship, on a cruise ship. So, um, yeah, put them in there. But I want to share this and be a positive person in this journey of mine of being sober and not keep it to myself. I need to share it. And believe me, even at work, I have a friend that can vouch for this. At work, I said it out loud. I didn't care who heard me. I'm a recovering alcoholic. And yeah, I'm proud of being a recovering alcoholic because I don't wake up and drink anymore. I don't look for that last penny to help me buy that drink. I'm not running around asking neighbors for a drink. It just is so much better to live a life of sobriety, um, live a life full of great things, even if it's not a great day. The great part is you wake up sober. You're you're blessed to be where you are. You're blessed to have the things you have. No matter how short a time that you have been sober, no matter how long, you've got to fight. You've got to keep going because in the end, it is completely worth every day to put in the work that you need to do to stay sober. And I'm coming up on 9 years in tomorrow would be October 15th. My sobriety date is November 15th of 2014. You can do it. You just have to want it. You just have to want it more than anything. And you have to do it for yourself. You can't do for somebody else until you do for yourself. And just like you can't control anything that's outside of your hula hoop, um, you just can't. So if it's not around you, if you are not the thing that needs to be in that situation, then don't be in it. And if you are ever somewhere where you start to feel uncomfortable, make sure you have an exit plan that you can just leave. I do that as well. So I really hope that these meetings are helping people to find the sobriety, to help that friend or family member. The holidays are coming and they're really hard on some of us. And reach out if you can to those loved ones and see how they're doing and make suggestions if you know that they need the help. Um, I'm gonna keep doing the AA meetings regardless if I'm here by myself because I don't know if I miss it if it could be somebody's day that they need it the most. So I do meetings on Tuesday mornings at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, and I do another meeting on Saturdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time right here on my channel. And I go live on Wednesdays, sometime on Wednesdays because I always end up scheduling myself for Wednesday morning to work. So that's just how it works out. And so I'm gonna read the daily reflection and let you guys get on your day. And I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Um, so on this app, you can put in your sobriety date, and it will track it for you. Now, I am 8 years, 10 months, and 29 days, or 3,255 days sober, and it is well worth it. And so, October 14th, a program for living. I don't know how this happens, but always fitting with what the story is of the day. I did not pick it that way. It keeps track of them by itself. So, when we retire at night, we constructively review our day. On awakening, let us think about the 24 hours ahead. Before we begin, we ask God to direct our thinking, especially asking that it be divorced from self pity, dishonest, or self seeking motives. And that's in Alcoholics Anonymous, which is the big book, on page 86. I lacked serenity with more to do than seemed possible. I fell further behind no matter how hard I tried. Worries about things not done yesterday and fear of tomorrow's deadlines denied me the calm I needed to be effective each day. Before taking step 10 and 11, I began to read pages like the one cited above. I tried to focus on God's will, not my problems, and to trust that He would manage my day. It worked. Slowly, but it worked. So, um, I want you all to know that I am here for you. If you have questions, leave them in the comments or come to my next live stream and ask those questions, and I will answer them the best that I can. If you need the help ASAP, um, do your local listings for an AA meeting, because they are literally everywhere. And I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend and a beautiful weather. Um, it's cold here, so I will let you guys go and have your day. So let's say the prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Keep coming back. It works if you work it. Love you guys. Be safe. Be kind.